Alliance.
So help me God.
Thank you very much. Next to sign will be Honourable V.F. Schlabisa from the Inkatha Freedom Party, President of the Inkatha Freedom Party.
Comment to the process?
Yes, I comment.
Okay. Next up, Dr. Peter Groenewald, leader of the Freedom Front Plus.
Ek onderneem.
Good. And then Mr. Neil de Beer, President of the United Independent Movement, also come forward to sign. And I'm sure Professor Gumede will read you some excerpts or headlines at the end of what the agreement is saying. Thank you, Professor.
I absolutely commit.
Professor Gumede will take you through now what everybody's just signed.
I'm only going to do the headlines. So starting off, the parties to this agreement agreed to contest the 2024 national and provincial elections as autonomous individual parties. They realized that they share common ground in respect of many of the solutions needed to address the most pressing challenges facing South Africa today. And they wish to record and to publicize the terms of this agreement to offer a compelling new direction through a multi-party platform that can win support of the majority of South Africans. The undersigned political parties come together at a time when South Africans are desperate for hope. They can only come from a new political direction for our young democracy. While they contest elections as individual parties, South Africans will see that they are greater than the sum of their parts. The name of this agreement is the Multi-Party Charter for South Africa. The nature of the agreement, it is the form of a pre-election arrangement the vision for South Africa, a new government to build a just, inclusive, and prosperous South Africa based on opportunity, freedom, and security for all its citizens. Priorities for the new government: growing the economy and creating jobs, ending load shedding and achieving energy security, achieving law and order, ensuring quality education, deliver basic services to high-quality infrastructure, building a professional public service that delivers to all, and ending cadre deployment, ensuring quality healthcare within a caring healthcare system, and building a social relief framework for South African households living in poverty. Set governing principles, South African Constitution, the rule of law, equality before the law, decentralizing power to the lowest effective level of government, accountable, transparent government with zero tolerance for corruption, capable government, caring government, an open market economy, evidence-based policies, redress of the unjust past, promoting non-racialism and unity in diversity. The declaration of intent. The parties here commit to the vision, priorities, principles, and common program of the Charter. Therefore, they will not entertain any working arrangement or co-governing agreements with the ANC, EFF, or any rival formations. And they will not vote for any office bearers of the ANC and EFF, nominated either directly or indirectly at any inaugural meetings of the National Assembly, the National Council of Provinces, and provincial legislatures. In full quotes, our mission is to unseat the ANC, keep out the EFF, and usher in a multi-party government following the 2024 national and provincial election, close quote. Principles of sharing public power. I'll take some of the key elements of that rather than all of it. A collective manifesto will be drawn up, which will combine the detailed policy positions of each party. A system of monitoring and evaluation will be developed to ensure delivery, and that system will be made public, and progress will be monitored and publicly reported on. In determining the setting of positions, so I'm only taking out some of the key things. I'm not reading through all of the document. 1, representation based on approximately proportional to the election results. That's now in terms of appointments when they go into government. Merit-based consideration as to which party has the best candidate for a position. They want to ensure that the diversity of the parties will be represented in leadership positions, and that the principle of separation of powers will be observed within the coalition. That the cabinet will reflect the diversity of the South African people. That there is no requirement that a leader of the largest party is de facto to be nominated for the position of the president. The largest party in a coalition that arises from this agreement and that does not hold the position of the President of the Republic will hold the position of leader of government business. So in the event that, for example, the group decides that the party within the coalition that gets the most votes, that its leader won't necessarily become the president, but that the largest party would be the leader of government business. Any candidate put forward for election as an office bearer must undergo an independent lifestyle audit. And that the outcomes of the lifestyle audit must be made public. All lifestyle audits will be made public. And that there will be a fundamental and wholesale review of the ministerial handbook Duration of this agreement, we're coming to an end. So the agreement starts on the day that the founding partners, they did it now, affix their signatures to the document. So it started now, officially. And that agreement may only be amended by consensus among the parties. And a party can exit only if they provide a written notice to the multi-party charter for South Africa, or if they are removed for whatever reasons by consensus agreement. I mean, that brings me to the end. So I say what I've done is I've used extracts rather than the whole document. And as a chairperson of the process, I think I also have to commend John Steenhuisen for starting the process, to acknowledge. And also, as the biggest party of the coalition, to acknowledge the compromises made, to acknowledge the maturity, to acknowledge the spirit, collaborative spirit of the engagement, and then each and every leader for how they've approached the negotiations. As I say, it was robust, it was challenging, but it's very, very important, I think, the maturity. And it is going to be very important to have that maturity to turn around South Africa, because I don't think, personally, a government without maturity, without grown-ups, real, genuine grown-ups, to manage South Africa, if we don't have that, we're not going to turn around South Africa. There has to be maturity, and grown-ups will have to manage the country in a real way. And I think they've proven it during these negotiations. As I say, it was tough, it was robust, it was challenging, and they had to put aside many of their own beliefs and the belief systems, the things that I've grown up with. They had to put it aside for a greater common purpose. And that greater common purpose is South Africa, the idea of South Africa, the idea of a South Africa that is better. The idea of a South Africa that's much more caring to everyone who lives in the country. The idea of a South Africa that is inclusive and that is diverse, and in that diversity cares for everyone.
Thank you very much. That was Professor Kamedi, who has been the independent chair of the entire process. We are now going to move into, you're going to hear from all members of the political parties. They're each going to make a statement, and then we'll go into questions. So I'm going to call them up in the order that we called yesterday morning, just to make it clear. So we're going to begin with Mr. Christopher Claassen, President of Spectrum National Party.
Good day, South Africa, media, party delegates. My name is Christopher Claassen, and I am the president of the Spectrum National Party, a political party who has got an equal race governing policy. The party is represented in 9 provinces. We are celebrating our 4th year anniversary on the 28th of November 2023. And again, I say, we, the Spectrum National Party, bow our heads in gratitude. And this time we can deliver testimony of a gigantic moment in the history of South Africa. And I wish to use this opportunity to tell all the leaders of the different political parties that have gathered in this convention room over the last 2 days, and also all the media representatives that gathered here over the last 2 days, that the experience of myself and my party delegates was that this convention met the goals to which all parties aspired to. And in this process, we found a lot of common ground among us. We must understand, thou, that we agreed to continue to recruit more parties to join the multi-party charter for South Africa, who has common goals like us. When we will be considered as full or saturated, then the charter will become more transparent about the formation of the future political system of our nation. The charter agreed at this convention that the general desire among the parties will be to develop South Africa into a first world country and move away from our status as a third world country. We also wish to use this opportunity to communicate to the media that the multi-party charter of South Africa is not a political party, but rather an agreement amongst all the parties that are involved at this convention to form a charter, meaning written and agreed guidelines defining a new vision for South Africa, including shared governing principles to achieve the ultimate goal of the multi-party charter of South Africa, namely to provide South Africans with an alternative to the current government, the ANC. We reason we all can agree upon. Each party affiliated now and in the future will always treasure their own identity, and the people of South Africa will continue to vote for their party of choice. And if that party happens to be a member of the multi-party charter of Africa, then the odds of winning elections against the ANC and EFF will always be more likely. Our party declares that we found common ground on solutions to challenges facing South Africa during the continuation of the convention over the past 2 days. The agenda for this convention was covered, and we report that the measure of cooperation experienced among the parties in the attendance in the commendable and inspires hope of this idea and the future of South Africa. We declare that this multi-party national convention, with enough reasons to trust all the parties committed to the shared governing principles. We all agreed to this convention room over the last 2 days, and the SNP further declare that we will remain loyal to the agreement we entered with all the other parties affiliated to the multi-party charter of South Africa. The Spectrum National Party wants to use this opportunity to thank the multi-party's independent chair, Professor William Kumede, and his support team for the great job they have done and chair and coordinated this historical nation convention. Last but not least, we thank the media, restaurant staff, security, and all other departments involved here at the Imperious Place who have collectively contributed to make the National Multi-Party Convention a huge success. I thank you, South Africa, and what we now remains to be done by all the citizens of our nation to show their support for our idea to save South Africa is to vote for any party other than the ANC and the EFF. The power is now in our hands. We need to fly or die, and we have come together to say, South Africa, we can change your life. May God bless you and this charter. Christopher Claassen, President, Spectrum National Party. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Claassen. I will now call upon Mr. Neil de Beer, President of the United Independent Movement. Mr. de Beer.
Aware. We need to create awareness. Salam. Goeiemiddag. Good afternoon. Molweni Bashlali. Jambo Habarigani. Umzuri. For people outside the border. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. That is the poem called Invictus, a poem written on the walls of Madiba's cell that kept him going every day. Isizwe sethu, our nation. Freedom comes at a sacrifice. And today, the leaders here, indeed, have done exactly that. History is something that we must never forget, but this nation cannot continue living in it. This nation must move forward. This country at the stage had the TRC, but it failed. It failed because we got to the truth, but in my opinion, we never got to reconciliation. I hope that this will be the beginning of such reconciliation for all. The future does not lie in our hands. For the elders sitting here, which I am one, are merely the custodians of this future for the younger generation to come. And that makes an obligation to us that whatever decision we take today has a major effect on the future generation of this country. And I ask that we make the right decisions. Chairman, racism does not belong in this society, no matter what side it comes from. We should fight it with everything that we have. Die ware waarde van 'n gemeenskap lê vandag nie in diamante, goud en silwer nie. Dit lê in ons mense van die Republiek van Suid-Afrika. Today, in conclusion, we will not accept the word impossible. We will make it possible. Clearly, to the citizens of this country, Yanto Tukwano, Yetu, Kubunye Betu, our future lies in our diversity. May God bless this Republic of South Africa. And we welcome you to come along with us and take the steps to a new beginning of a great country. And we say the words halala and stop using cliches like Ubuntu and Masakane and make them real for a change. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Beer, President of the United Independent Movement. Next up is Dr. Zikili Luyenga, President of ISANCO, the Independent South African National Civic Organization.
Good evening, South Africa. The multi-party charter leadership is led by leaders of all like-minded minds. The political parties who think as alike in South Africa, the members of the media, our colleagues outside there, on behalf of ISANCO, with a mandate from Abahlali, not from the ANC. In 2021, when we were only 6 months old, we managed to get 14 PR seats across the country in municipalities where we chose to participate. We are here today, and in appreciation of our invitation to participate at this level, we commit ISANCO to bring what it will take this multi-party charter to the sky, lead South Africa, remove what is not needed, remove any player that is tired. Emanating from the conglomerates, from diverse backgrounds and ideologies, has culminated into a united force to reckon with, determined to deliver a people-caring government, a people-caring driven development belief, where communities will participate in their own development, where the attributes of a developmental state, where communities communicate directly, participate in their own development without entertaining the friends that are coming from elsewhere, or those who are in close proximity with those that are in power. Isango is highly determined to correct the mistakes and the misnomer that we were part of, to put the current government to be in power, and all of a sudden, the word that is coming from the community is ignored. We are so happy to be part of providing an alternative government in South Africa. Joblessness, inequalities, and poverty exacerbated by corruption are our enemies. A political party, no matter how old it can be, it will only remain relevant when it responds positively to the problems that affect the communities. It is not the age of any political party that will keep it in power, and no level of arrogance will keep those that are in power, even if we are being suffocated and there is no element of suffocation and destabilization which is brought to disrupt this arrangement. We will make sure that come 2024, there is a relief amongst all South Africans, because an alternative, credible, and a government that is coming from the people, the political parties who actually put aside their ideologies and put the aspirations of the communities of South Africa. I will then further commit and say the leadership that is in front of you, South Africa, is highly determined to rise to the standard. I thank you.
Thank you very much to Dr. Zukile Lienga, from President of Isanco. I'll next call up Mr. Herman Mashaba, President of Action SA.
Fellow South Africans, first of all, I'd like to recognize members of the media for their patience over the last 2 days. Fellow leaders of political parties present, for your unwavering commitment to this very difficult process. I also like to really convey my gratitude to all South Africans for following these proceedings and for the overwhelming encouragement we have received thus far. I entered politics at the age of 56, after many years in business. I was frustrated by a government that has left the South African people and actually let them down. For the first time here, I've seen political leaders come together in the interest of all South Africans, and engage for all South Africans. The foundation laid by this group over the past 3 months has laid the foundation upon which a new government can be built, one which is stable and that can address the pressing needs of all South Africans. I pledge Action SA to this multi-party charter for South Africa. I recognize the role of Action SA must play to bring the ANC voters and the new ones to this group that will be instrumental in our success. The best way Action SA can serve this multi-party charter is for Action SA to succeed. That is why we will grow Action SA in all 9 provinces. That is why we will develop Action SA's offer. Let me pay tribute to Professor Gumede and his team for their role in independently facilitating this very necessary process. I praise their bravery for standing up when called upon to serve their country. Today, I believe we have started to build the platform that is going to free South Africans from the ANC and start the work required to fix our country. I've read media reports the last few days that seek to designate some parties as winners and losers here, and I want to dispel that notion. The only winners are the South African people, and the only losers are political parties that do not join this multi-party charter for South Africa. This will not be the final group of parties in the multi-party charter, and our work is far from done. It was also not a 2-day event. It began 3 months ago, and it has involved countless hours that ran late into many nights. It has been an impressive, it has been unprecedented. Not many South Africans will know that our laws give only 2 weeks to form a government after an election. In many countries, this process takes months. But let it be known that when the history of our country is written, years from now, these leaders who stood up when it mattered were counted and started the work to fix our country, and I'd like to thank them. I stand here and invite South Africans to do something that they have not done in a long time, to begin again and believe that with their support, we can have hope. With their support, we can fix South Africa. And with their support, we can imagine life beyond the ANC, something that just 2 days ago, many people never believed it was possible. I remember quite well when we started this process, some people never believed that something like this can be achieved. And I think it is only fair for them to have believed like the way they did. Over the last few years of our multi-party government in local government, I'm sure you're aware we've encountered challenges. But please show me any country with multi-party governments that do not go through what South Africa is going through. But one thing for sure, South Africans are a relentless community and country. It is for that reason I'm standing here with my fellow party leaders. We decided to put our differences aside and think about people of our country, think about our children and our grandchildren and create a better future for them. And I commit Action SA to this process until its execution in 2024. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Mr. Herman Mashaba, President of Action SA. Next up is Dr. Peter Groenewald, leader of the Freedom Front Plus.
Thank you very much. Evening to everyone. I want to start by saying that the end result of signing the multi-party charter for South Africa is not the end. This is the beginning, and the beginning of change. People say they want change in South Africa. I see this as a change for the future of South Africa. It's a game changer. It's unique. Why is it unique? It is unique in this sense that you can have 7 different opposition political parties who could reach consensus on sound principles and sound priorities to create a better future, but still keep their own identity, their own independency, still putting forward their own policies. And it is unique that so many parties could reach a consensus on the sound principles and the priorities. And that's why I say it's a game changer. But I said yesterday, that means also that the electorate must also change. You can have no change without change. This is a change. Make use of that opportunity to bring change in the government in the future. It is also a matter of that we must understand, because there are some people that say, but maybe other foreign countries will save South Africa. They will intervene. No. We have to intervene. We, all South Africans, must ensure that we get to the voting polls and we can bring that change. And freedom is not free. Freedom requires that we do something. And as opposition parties, we came forward, putting on the table a multi-party charter for South Africa. And my appeal is, let's make use of that opportunity. Let's bring change. And if we can create change, we create hope. Suid-Afrika het hoop nodig. Maar hoop moet en kan slegs verkry word as ons iets doen. As die ANC regeer met 'n 58% meerderheid in die nasionale vergadering, maar met slegs 27% van stemgeregtigdes in Suid-Afrika, dan kan ons 'n verandering bring. As ons betrokke raak en daardeur 'n bydrae lewer vir vryheid. Maar bo alles is ons hoop altyd gevestig, soos wat daar in die skrif staan in die Bybel, in u lig sien ons die lig. Baie dankie.
That's thanks to Dr. Peter Groenewald, leader of the Freedom Front Plus. Next to come and address you is Mr. V.F. Schlabisa, President of the Inkatha Freedom Party. Mr. Schlabisa.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me greet the media, the leaders of all political parties we have been engaged with since yesterday, Professor Kumete and your team, and my fellow South Africans. The past 2 days have been challenging but fruitful. I believe we emerge with renewed hope for South Africa's future. As you have heard, we have agreed on much. Paramount amongst this is that as a country, we need an alternative government that will put South Africans first. Compatriots, time is now. I will repeat what I said yesterday. As politicians, we cannot bring change alone. This must be a joint project for all the people of goodwill in South Africa, including civil society. We cannot save South Africa without you. We need every single South African who is eligible to vote to stand up and join the fight for a better South Africa. Do you want to live in a country where your children can play safely on the streets? where the lights are always on, and where each person who is able and willing can get a decent job? Do you want to live in just, inclusive, and prosperous South Africa? I believe your answer is a resounding yes. For this reason, the IFP would like to issue a clarion call to South Africa's 13 million unregistered voters and to South Africa's 14 million dormant voters. These 27 million voters are a sufficient number to remove the government of the day that has failed our people. The people of South Africa are not happy about how our country is governed. Almost everything is falling apart and going from bad to worse. This is why the people of South Africa must speak loudly and clear in 2024 and say, enough is enough. The 2024 general election will be a turning point, a watershed, a make or break moment for our country. The government that has failed our people, dashed our hopes, and destroyed our country must be removed from power and replaced by an alternative government that will revive hopes, dreams, and aspirations of our people. It therefore falls upon all of us as people of goodwill to stand up and mobilize everyone, young and old. This is not only for our own sake, but for the sake of our children, our country, and future generations. Everyone must be encouraged to register and vote to replace the failed government with an alternative government that will be decisive in fighting crime, ending load shedding, closing porous borders, bringing an end to poverty and inequality, and creating a conducive environment to attract investors to rebuild our economy and thereby create much needed job opportunities. Nothing is impossible. Let us all stand up, save and rebuild South Africa. We can and we must. Let us do it. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schlabisa, President of the Inkatha Freedom Party. Next to speak is Mr. John Steenhuisen, Federal Leader of the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you very, very much, Program Director. Good afternoon to colleagues, members of the media, but most importantly to our fellow South Africans. As we wrap up these 2 intensive days of the National Convention, we as leaders emerge hopeful about the future of our country. Much like the historic negotiations which took place here 32 years ago at the CODESA negotiations, that went on to change the course of South Africa forever, the multi-party charter of South Africa is going to do exactly the same. When I first announced the DA's commitment to a project like this, back in April, there were very, very many naysayers who said that this group of parties, this group of leaders, could never even reach the point of sitting around the same table. And yet, here we all are today, signing a historic and unprecedented agreement to rescue South Africa. Today, without any doubt, I can say that this agreement has brought hope back to South Africa. I'd like to thank the members of the DA's negotiating team Dr. Leon Schreiber and Mrs. Saviwe Garube, as well as the incredibly hardworking Mrs. Sandy van Hoogstraten, who did a lot of the heavy lifting over the course of the last 10 weeks. I want to thank Professor Gumede and his team, but also to the leaders for the robust, but I think good-natured and well-intentioned debates and discussions that we had. Yesterday, I asked South Africa to judge the outcome of these 2 days by whether or not they provide real solutions, real hope to the people of South Africa about a better future. And using that metric, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this convention has been a resounding success. We have collectively agreed on a shared vision, shared principles for a new government, and a minimum program of action to address the urgent problems that present such an existential risk to South Africa and our country's future. The 7 political parties in this charter have come together to keep the ANC out, keep the EFF out of power, and provide, importantly, a new alternative to rescue South Africa in 2024. During all of these deliberations and discussions and debates, the people have been top of mind. Because South Africa cannot continue for a moment longer under the current trajectory. Half of our citizens live in abject poverty. 7 out of 10 young people cannot find work. 80% of learners in schools cannot read for meaning at grade 4 level. The electricity crisis is destroying what's left of our economy. And communities are under siege because of crime and drug abuse. Corruption has wreaked havoc in our public service, and millions of South Africans can no longer feed their families. All of these crises can only be resolved if we remove the ANC, because they have broken South Africa. We, this charter, are going to be the ones that rebuild our country. I'm deeply grateful to the leaders who have joined hands to undertake this momentous task. However, we can only achieve a majority for this charter if we can partner with the people of South Africa. So I'm now calling on every South African, wherever you may be, in whatever corner of this beautiful country you are, that we need your help to rescue South Africa. Go out and claim your rightful ownership of this project, because this project is about the people, not about the politicians. And the very best way you can do this is by going out to register to vote. There are 27 million people in this country who did not vote in the last election. Your country needs you now, your people need you now, and this charter needs you like never before. Now is your moment. We fundamentally believe that South Africa is a beautiful country, and she's well worth the fighting for. So let's go out and register to vote in our millions and millions, and next year help this charter sweep the ANC out of power and start to chart a new trajectory for all South Africans in this beautiful country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. John Steenhuisen, Federal Leader of the Democratic Alliance. I know now that this is the moment that many of you here have been waiting for. Okay. So I'm going to take questions and we'll manage them. And I'll take 4 and then we'll answer them and then we'll come back for another round, okay? Just to make it easier in that context. So can we still start with what we have done as the days have gone past? Tell us who you are, news agency you're from, and the question that you have. All right. I'm trying to start with people who haven't had their hands up before, but okay, so I'm going to start with the gentleman in the front with the tie, and then the gentleman at the back with the beard, and then I know it's Mail and Guardian. Am I right? Okay. Okay, and it's ENCA. Okay, then I'll go to that side, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, as the next round. Okay, you noted. There'll be other rounds. Don't worry, I've seen you. Okay. All right, can we begin with that? Can you please start with your questions? Okay.
Okay, so my name is Julia Kumar from Newsroom Africa. The first question is on the manifesto, the joint manifesto. how is this going to work? Each party is going to have its own manifesto launch, and will you have a joint manifesto, or is it just going to be a document that's going to be circulated? On the other question is, the smaller parties, the DA in Parliament, wants a threshold with regards to parties that can be part of a coalition. So what happens to the other parties that you're already in coalition with right now? Because I don't think they meet that threshold. Was this discussed during the talks that you had?
Thanks very much. Can I just ask, if you're asking a question, the second question that you asked just was clear, it was directed to the DA, but the first question, did you want everybody to answer, or was there somebody specific that you wanted to address it to? Okay, thank you very much. Next person up, we've got the microphone. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Chris White with Ndaba Africa. And at the risk of missing a chance to ask John Steenhuisen a question after 3 years of trying to get to him, my question is for Neil de Beer. Mr. de Beer, you served in the old government during the apartheid era, and you served under the ANC in the new government. And now you're here with this coalition that's trying to come up with a new government. Do you have a lot of hope, or hope, as you say in Afrikaans, for this coalition going forward? That's my question for Neil de Beer.
Thank you very much. I think the next, was it Mailer Garden? Yes. Okay, and then, yes, sorry, Ian Say, yes, okay.
Just a couple of questions from myself.
Okay,
This is
okay.
from the Mailer Garden. To anyone, particularly the parties that are currently in Parliament. I wanted to know if you had discussed the DA's campaigning style. There's been complaints and concerns around the DA campaigning around that smaller parties should not get the vote, that it is a wasted vote to give it to smaller parties. Was this discussed? I want to ask you, there's been a lot of comments on Twitter around the fact that what we see on this panel is males, and that we don't see females. And in fact, when I looked at the women that were there with you, I could only count 3. What does this signify? Because this is similarly, Mr. de Beer, it's similarly to Codesa, where women were trying, fighting to get into the room. What does this signify? And how do you, can you just touch on how you ensure that this is not a representation going forward? And Mr. John Steenhuisen, in terms of, and this is outside of the coalition, but in terms of the 2024 elections, if your party declines in next year's elections, will this be an indictment on your own leadership? And what does it mean to you, given that there's a precedent that has been set by the party that a leader who declines in the electoral vote has resigned before? What does it mean for you? Will you resign? The last.
Okay, it's not fair. Okay.
I wanted to ask, are you will no longer, or the DA does not have any intentions of going?
Okay, the ENCA speaker, and then we'll go into answers.
William Keith Jones, ENCA. Just first question, could be directed to anyone. What are the objectives of how a member is brought on the coalition bloc, and who are the potential parties to be brought on? I know there was a conversation on the Action SA wanting PA to be brought on board. Was that discussed? And of course, secondly, in terms of principles of power sharing to Mr. Mashaba, we now know that the leader of the largest party in the bloc will become the leader of government. Are you happy with that, particularly what we saw in Johannesburg before, where there was a bit of a tussle over Action SA wanting Funzi Ngobeni to be the mayor, but the DA insisting that they will have a candidate to be the mayor, despite the numbers not being their side? Are you happy with that? And just lastly, what are the deadlock rules if the parties don't meet thresholds?
Okay, thank you very much. The first question was in relation to question was about the joint manifesto.
You must understand that this is a multi-party charter for South Africa, not a manifesto, as a separate political party. That's a difference. That's why I said it's a unique situation where there is a coalition around, as I said, a multi-party charter for South Africa with sound principles and sound priorities. It's there. Now, each and every party will make their own contribution to those principles, and there will be differences. And in the end, we must remember that the formal coalition will only be formed after the election. And then, because we only have 14 days, we will have to ensure that even if there are new partners, that we can combine them, but it must be in line with the principles and the priorities. Therefore, it is not a manifesto, it is only a charter, like in Afrikaans sê ons, dis 'n veelparty handves vir Suid-Afrika. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raffelt. Okay, you've got to go. So I'm calling up Mr. Steenhuisen to answer all the questions related to him.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Junior. Obviously, there's a parliamentary process. We discussed it. That process will unfold in Parliament. There's still a lot of discussion to go. The bills are up for discussion. They circulate to parties, and I'm sure, like any legislative process, there will be lots of give and take and discussions as those bills proceed through Parliament. So, our Chief Whip, Siviwe Gachube, has tabled those 3 bills in Parliament, and we will participate in the process, which will also include, no doubt, a public participation process. Whether, in fact, these things can be done before the election, well, we're hoping something can be done to stabilize coalitions, but it's not been a source of discussion here. We've agreed that we need to work together to be able to try and build that majority. I'm very happy to say the DA's campaign style did not, contrary to news to the otherwise, be discussed. But what we did discuss was how we can campaign in a way that builds each other up, that creates faith in the South African people, that we are working together. Now, we all agree we're not, politics, as I said in the meeting, is a contact sport, and we're not Pollyannas. But I do think that we can engage on our differences in a constructive way that does not undermine the faith and the confidence that we're hoping to build up from people here. I really think, guys, in the fourth estate, that the third estate should demand the same levels of accountability going forward. So if your newspaper readership drops below 9,000, I think that you should be held accountable too, and we should be able to ask if you should be resigning as well, because your readership has fallen below 9,000. The next, before I end up in Paddy Harper's column again on Friday, let me just say that was said tongue in cheek. But let me just say that, of course, leaders take responsibility for election results. It's accepted precedent the world over, not only in South Africa. And the chips will fall where they may. And if them's the breaks, and you get on and do what you do. I don't know who's marked this. Is this ours or theirs? I don't know. Is it ours? Not someone's. Sorry. There we go. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, John, for waking up the room. To answer the next set of questions, Mr. Walling's questions, Neil de Beer is going to come up, and he's also going to address some of the women.
My question wasn't answered.
Oh, okay.
I think it was around what are the objectives of how the members brought on, and in regards to the talks, actually say wanting the Patriotic Alliance to be part of this bloc as well. Was that discussed?
Okay, can I get Mr. de Beer up, and then I'll get a question coming through. I'm going through all the questions in order, and I'm trying to get the parties that are aimed at to all come up at one, to answer in one go, just to make it easier. Point taken.
I think there was a good Kenny Rogers song. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away. You got to know when you got to run. I'll start with women first. It's a sad indictment that we still fight to hear our women speak. The UIM is very simple. We don't count the women in the UIM. We make the woman count in the UIM. I have a vice president who is a woman. I don't call her a woman. I call her my rock. We should do more. We are doing more. And we need the woman to rise. I look at you from this side, and I see many women who today have that equal footing and stand tall. Yes, we need more. Here we stand, but simple men. But I know when we're done here, we go home to a brighter woman. We should be. So to the lady asking the question, you are right, we need more and we need to do more. That's how we need to do it. On the matter of hope, yes, I was in the previous dispensation, and I fought for that dispensation, no doubt. When realizing that we needed change, I didn't take the coward way out. I got up and I said, we need to change. Doesn't mean the other side did not also get up and do what they needed to do. Chris, today, having looked at both sides had a failure, and both sides need to be corrected in the future. This is the way we do it. We need to realize when we are wrong, and we need to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes going on. I see hope. I really do. And this is the reason we are here. And on the smaller party issue, yes, campaigning is hard. In these discussions, we had to put it on the table of what our goals are. We know there are thresholds, and we know as a smaller party in this charter, we have work to do. And if we all work together, we will make it. If we fail, obviously we gave it a very good run. It's up to us to reach those thresholds and to ensure that we've got our seat in 2024 at the table. And I can just end by saying, I see myself as an equal in this leadership and at this table, and never have I felt at all that I am being seen as a nobody or as a person that doesn't have a say. And I look forward to that future.
Thanks very much, Mr. De Beer. I'm then going to call on Herman Mashaba to come up and answer the questions that relate to him.
No, thank you very much for the questions addressed to me. And I really hope and trust that our media people have already circulated this document to you. Has it been? If not, I would really request that it be done, please, so that when I make reference to this, because we have now signed on this particular matter, because the question posed to me about whether we've resolved our issues with the DA, concerned with the ANC. It's actually covered in the declaration of intent, which I'd like to read to you for those who've not received the document as yet. It falls under 7.1. It reads as follows. Signatory powers to the multi-charter for the South African commit to South Africans and to one another. That, one, we are unequivocal about our commitment to the vision, priorities, principles, and common programs of the Charter. Therefore, we will not entertain any working arrangement or co-governing arrangement with the ANC, EFF, or any rival formations, and we will not vote for any office bearers of the ANC and the EFF, nominated either directly or indirectly, at any inaugural meetings of the National Assembly, National Council of Provinces, and provincial legislatures. Lastly, our mission is to unseat the ANC, keep the EFF out, and usher in a multi-party government following the 24 national and provincial elections. And I'm sure you all witnessed all of us signing this declaration here in front of you. And obviously, as you're aware, it's something that Action SA had concerns and genuine concerns, and I think all of us, we dealt with this matter with humility and maturity. So therefore, I guess we've got to really put this matter behind us and focus on the future, because we've got a binding document that we signed in front of all of us South Africans, and we all signed in total good faith. There were no AK-47s getting us to sign this document. Pule, regarding the leadership issue that you've raised, referring to the city of Johannesburg, Pule, I'm sure you were part of the media that attended the council meeting where the DA mayor was elected and the speaker and so forth. That is before this document was signed. This is what obviously preempted us ensuring that we agree upfront in terms of the principles of power sharing. And unfortunately, because there are just too many, I don't think it will really be fair. So these matters have been adequately addressed and in advance in terms of the power sharing arrangement. Whereas when we voted for the DA, Speaker, Mayor, and others at the time, we did not really have this arrangement, and that's what really created this problem. And that's what really prompted us as Action SA to make sure that we get involved with our other partners, committed to unseating the ANC, because we care about the future of our children and the future of this country. So I hope that your question will really be addressed. Otherwise, it will take me time to really read this document. So I think from my side, our side as Action SA, we're really very happy, and I'd like to really address this issue of the manifestos. I think we've communicated on more than one occasion. Professor Gumede did address this matter, including our governance principles and our priorities. And we did make mention of the fact that our technical people will obviously come out with a manifesto for this multi-party charter. But at the same time, this is not going to take away our independence as political parties. I invite you as members of the media, the 12th and to the 14th of September, Action SA will be unveiling our policies and our offer to South Africans. It's not an event to be missed. I'm not joking, it's not an event to be missed. Because what we're going to be unveiling is something that this country has never seen before. And I invite you to come and obviously really to engage us on the policies that we are offering to South Africa, but at the same time, working in partnership with all these parties and inviting others. Because we believe, obviously, we need, as the Charter, to ensure that we can get to 50+1. At this point in time, I'm sure all of you are aware, we're not yet there. If you look at it from a theoretical point of view, but one thing that we are confident, but we're not going, and we're going to work towards it. We are not going to leave it to the Almighty. We are going to pray every morning for the Almighty to give us the blessings, but we're going to work damn hard to ensure that we can invite South Africans to come out in their numbers come out in their numbers and not do it for this charter. They must do it for the future of their children to go out and bring about a peaceful transition in South Africa. Thank you very much.